Now, what have we got here? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what the hell is Scrimper up to now? Is he opening a weapons factory or what? What do you think these are then? It's an interesting story. I think they're interesting. Probably you don't. Anyway, my uncle, all his life, bless his soul, my late uncle I should say, he worked all of his life in a factory called Lynchburgh's of Kingham. And during World War II, they went into munitions production along with lots of other companies. And one of the things they made were these. And for years, people wondered what they were. I've got quite a collection of them. Reason being that after the war, Lynchburgh's, they stacked a whole load of these in their sort of a field right next door to the school where I actually went to school at Kingham. And they were left there for years in the weather and that, and eventually when the field was cleaned up they were going to be thrown away. And my late uncle, being a scrimper like myself, he didn't like to see anything thrown away, so he kept them. And last year, not last year actually I should say 2016, unfortunately he passed away at the ripe old age of 90. And whilst I was clearing out his shed, as you do being a scrimper and saving all sorts of things that might be useful at a later date, there were lots of these there, and I hadn't got the heart to throw them out. And I thought, well, what can I use them for? So I brought them home, not all of them because there were too many, but I brought quite a few home because I thought, well, they're quite nice, you could polish them up for ornaments, and I'll show you one in a moment what it looks like when they're polished up. Or perhaps they do for the tops of fence posts or something, because they're quite decorative. It just seemed a shame to throw them away, so I kept them. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn the camera around onto one I've got which is already cleaned up, and I'll tell you a little bit about them, such as I know. Right, here we are then. This is the rocket head. This is one I've polished up earlier. You can see it's got four holes around the sides and a countersink fitting in there, which does have a screw thread in, I believe. I'm just going to move the camera out a bit because it might not be in focus. And a brass cap which polishes up nicely. I think you'll agree they're quite a nice little thing as an ornament. Stick it on the bookshelf or on the mantelpiece if you got one, or something like that. Now, the history of these things, Lynchburgh's didn't actually make all of it, but they did a lot of machining. This part here is cast. This was cast in the Hub Foundry at Chipping Norton, which is a town about 4 miles from Kingham, approximately. And they made all the castings. They sent them to Lynchburgh's. It's lost in the mists of times, most of the information about it, but from what I found out, Lynchburgh's actually machined this part, and I believe they fitted this on. Now, this isn't obviously this isn't the complete rocket. This is the rocket head. This piece in fact, is about 6 3/4 inches long, which is in another language is 170 millimeters, if you don't know what inches are, and he's about 2 1/4 inches diameter, which equates to about 55 millimeters. Now, when it was fit, Lynchburgh's only made this part of it, but it actually was part of a larger rocket, which when it was completed was about 36 inches long, so it was quite a long thing. It wasn't a rocket to aim at the enemy to do damage. It was basically a target rocket, from what I can understand, and what it was used for, it emitted light, and I believe that's what these holes are for here. You'll see the 4 large holes, and they are exposed, and the other end of the rocket, I have got some illustrations of it, but I can't put them on here, but it has a bottom piece, very similar with a heavy part, and that has 4 holes in as well. And I believe the principle was that it emitted light out of the top. It had some explosive of some sort, not explosive, I don't know what you call it, thing that ignited, I can't think of the word now, which gave off light here, and the same in the other end of it, which obviously I haven't got, which was a similar part to this, and that was also packed with some sort of igniting device, I don't know what it was, and that gave off a coloured light as well, so it was used for target practice, I think. Actually, this was the part for aiming. Some people suggest it was for anti-aircraft people, for aiming their other bullets and rockets or whatever they shot. I don't know a great deal about it. I just thought it was an interesting thing to cover. And as I say, Lynchburgh's made these, and there were loads of them floating about. I imagine that quite a few people in Kingham have probably got one of these on their mantelpiece or something, or they did have one, because I expect they were collector's items, although people chucked things away, didn't they, in those days. Anyway, I've got quite a few of these. My grandsons have taken a couple away quite proudly, and they've taken them to school to show them off, and people seem to be quite interested now. I just thought it was something I should mention. Just seems a shame to throw them away. I'll just have a word about Lynchburys. This is a Lynchburys catalogue from dated 1964, and you can see they made various agricultural machines, cleaners, elevators, conveyors, grain fittings, owners. If I open it, you can see it says on it over 100 years with grain machinery. This is some of the machines they actually made. These were their grain cleaners. My uncle, actually, Frank, he made the very first one of those when he worked at Lynchburys, and he also made the very last one. Sadly, they stopped production about 25 years ago when the company closed down, very sadly, because at one time it employed over 100 people in Kingham. These are some of the other machines they made. They also made, well, you can see them in here, there was different models of cleaner somewhere in here. These are their bucket grain elevators they also made. For a short time during school holidays I actually worked in the factory, Lynchburys factory, and I helped actually make some of these. I can remember using piranha pine for these bores here. It was quite good because it didn't have knots in it. These are some of the other things they made. It's a shame it closed down, really. It's a very sad story because right at the end, just before they were closing down, I went to visit my uncle there, and they were making things like bird tables and waste baskets to fit in lamp posts and things, and I found it very sad. This is another catalogue. This is the Roberts elevators. They were very big in elevators up till the sort of Second World War and just beyond, and then of course with the combine harvester it killed it off, and hay ricks were no longer required, so they didn't need elevators, and so they stopped making them. At one time Lynchburys were producing so many elevators there was about a 2-year waiting list to get one. They just couldn't make them fast enough. This, you'll notice, this is the Lynchburys Roberts Premier and Superlight. The reason for that is that Roberts was a well-known top quality maker of elevators, and they went into receivership, and Lynchburys bought them out, bought the name and all the fittings, and started producing them under the Lynchburys name, but with Roberts Premier on it. Interesting thing about this leaflet, I'm not sure the exact date, it's quite old. It might be 1933, but I can't swear to it. But look at the telephone number. I don't know whether you can see that, but I'm going to zoom in a bit. It might not be clear because it's very small writing. Actually, it says telephone Kingham 6. Kingham 6. So that shows how old it is. What I plan to do, actually, I've always been a fan of Lynchburys, having worked there for a short time myself, and I knew the Lynchburys, the family, the people, the owners, and I use the machines in there as well, the woodworking machines, being very keen on woodworking from a young age. And I do hope to do a sort of a website about Lynchburys at some point, telling the history, but it's all a question of time, and I'm so busy doing these videos at the moment I don't have time to do that. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope there's a little bit of interest in it for somebody. It just seemed a shame that they'd be forgotten. So anyway, that's it. Rocket heads. Nothing more to say really, but I think they're nice. What do you think? Bye.